Few games use live-action cutscenes as emphatically as Quantum Break, and for all intents and purposes, it's one of the game's defining elements. Between each of its 5 gameplay-based chapters, you have the opportunity to watch roughly 20-minute-long episodes, which are entirely optional, but designed to offer a wealth of insight into the antagonist's state of mind. Otherwise, Quantum Break focuses on Jack Joyce, the time-bending lead character played by Shawn Ashmore, better known as Iceman from the X-Men films. Ashmore is one of a few well-known actors featured in Quantum Break, and each member's professional acting chops are put to good use. Of course, Quantum Break is intended to be played rather than merely watched, but even if you skip its optional episodes, the best aspects of its gameplay are suppressed by frequent bouts of mundanity. Combat is the unequivocal star of the show here, driven by time-based superpowers at your disposal. At the start of the game, you're imbued with the ability to manipulate time, which allows you to slow down combat, speed up Jack's movement, create shields that freeze bullets upon impact, or cast time blast bombs near unsuspecting enemies. And it doesn't take long to develop a flow, to understand how to link one ability to the next by managing each move's cooldown timer. You can thrust yourself into danger to establish line of sight on an enemy and protect yourself with a shield while you open fire. When your defenses run out, you can quickly zip into cover and cast a time blast, or continue to use your firearms while your abilities refresh. There's no one right way to fight, and there's great enjoyment to be found in experimenting with your abilities, not to mention witnessing the environment react to your powers as the scene shifts, cracks, and glitches out around you. Quantum Break is a great-looking game with some truly impressive character models that bring its actors to life, and the time-based special effects are a constant source of amazement. There's also an incredible amount of real-time destruction on display, which not only looks great, but also keeps you moving during combat as enemies regularly destroy your hiding spots. Quantum Break's shooting mechanics, however, are slightly less impressive. There are times when your enemies introduce devices that disrupt your superhuman abilities, and you have no choice but to resort to your firearms. Now, it would be unfair to compare simple shooting to manipulating time, but it is reasonable to hold Quantum Break to modern third-person shooting standards. You spend a lot of time in cover during combat, and while it's possible to blind fire your Time Blast ability, you can't use your guns with the same amount of freedom. You don't have the option to shoot while crouched. You have to stand up and expose yourself to other enemies, and usually take damage, unless you have enough energy to cast a time shield around yourself. Of course, this is an option that shouldn't be needed when you already have suitable cover. Both aiming and movement feel loose and cumbersome, making the aim assist feature the only reliable way to consistently pick off enemies. When you're not engaged in combat, you're probably exploring environments for clues and story tidbits, or traversing obstacles during ill-conceived platforming challenges. Again, movement is so loose in Quantum Break, and the combat's so exciting that it's frustrating when you're forced to slow down, awkwardly scale objects, and leap around. Sadly, Quantum Break's gameplay is essentially divided equally between combat and hapless environmental traversal. Given that the entire campaign can be completed in less than 10 hours, live-action episodes included, the distribution of activities feels that much more disappointing. Prior to the TV show-like episodes, you get to make decisions for your nemesis, Paul Serene, which have an impact on some events in the show and in the game. The effect of most decisions are noticeable, but not truly consequential, in part because the game's cliched, potentially story-spoiling opening dulls your sense of wonder from the get-go. Far worse, however, is the end result. Quantum Break only has one ending. Realizing this, your choices ultimately feel trivial, and not worth reconsidering. You're encouraged to replay the game, but by the time you reach the credits, it's unlikely you'll feel motivated to do so. So by the end, you know the most important parts of the story, and you understand that replaying it to witness alternative events in the middle would require you to retread well-worn, sometimes boring territory. Getting to the end of Quantum Break can be an interesting ride at times, but no matter how impressive the combat is, no matter how great the game looks, there's no getting around the fact that it's driven by a story with limited appeal and hindered by disappointing design decisions.